Addiction is a progressive disease that can leave a family feeling helpless. Beth Schmidt lost her son to a drug overdose in 2013. She joins us now to share Sean's story and what it's like to be a parent of a child struggling with addiction. Beth, obviously we kind of know each other and we've known each other for a while. I am really glad that you're willing to come out and share a little bit about what you went through with Sean. We're going to talk a little bit about the crisis. And you and I met back very soon after Sean's overdose, and I've seen a lot of the things you do in our community, and you do a lot of good things. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm hoping that you can share so maybe some of the viewers can hear just some different signs and things to look for. What were early signs that you noticed about Sean that he might have a substance use problem?
So early on, Sean, as I've shared before, he smoked a little bit of weed, drank when he was in high school. And although it wasn't anything that I liked, it wasn't extremely concerning. I tried to stop it, take it out of the house, keep it out of the house. But after he got out of high school is when I started noticing that something had changed. It wasn't just weed and alcohol anymore. His appearance was very shabby. He wasn't taking care of himself. He had lost quite a bit of weight, had very dark circles under his eyes, and he was never good with money, but he never had any money. And if there were arguments, it was usually around money.
Did you notice at certain times, maybe in high school, because I know Sean played Little League and different things like that, did you notice he started to hang out with different people? Was there different things like that were taking place?
In high school, no, he really didn't. It was a little bit after high school, but he did. He started to change friends. I always knew his friends. I always knew his friends' parents. I had a really good relationship with him, with the friends, with the parents. Everybody knew me. I knew them. But then there were a couple of people that I didn't know, or I really didn't get a really good feeling about.
Yeah. When did you start to really notice, because some kids it's just normal teenage behavior. When did you start to notice that there was a serious drug problem that was happening and you knew that he had kind of crossed the line and was doing harder drugs that you didn't have answers for and didn't know what to do?
So I kind of started to question the behavior. I started to question the lack of money, the inability to get a hold of him at certain times. And he was in a car accident in May, I think it was 2010. And the way he was going, he would have been turning left to go towards the city from where we live. And I said to him, you don't go to the city to buy weed. Something else is going on. There's a reason why you were in that car accident. And eventually he did come clean, and he did tell me that he had started using prescription pills. And these pills were given to him by an adult, one of those adults that I knew, one of those adults that I trusted.
So he started with prescription opioids. Mm-hmm. Do you know when you kind of found out that maybe it was more of not just buying the pills from I don't want to say family friend, but the person that you knew, where it kind of had stepped into a different level where he was going, to the city, and you thought maybe there was other things, like he was using the drug a different way. Opiates, people are taking it and drinking a glass of water and taking a pill. It also leads to injection, using heroin. When did you notice signs like that?
Well, we had that conversation, and he assured me he would never use a needle. It wasn't going to get that far. It wasn't going to go there. But he did oftentimes not have shoelaces. He didn't live at home, so it was hard for me to see a lot of these things, but he worked close by.
So just so everybody knows, if someone sees shoelaces possibly missing, what would somebody be using that for?
So me, as a parent, when I saw shoelaces are missing, I remember buying him shoelaces, and he would say, oh, well, they were broken again, or he would walk around and his shoes are falling off of his feet. It wasn't until after I found out that he was using heroin intravenously that I realized why these shoelaces were missing. He was using them to tie off his arm. So a lot of the signs that I saw, I didn't recognize as signs for opioid addiction or further addiction because I just saw them one at a time. I didn't really put them all together until he got very thin.
That's
and
interesting. Yeah.
he really, he finally just came to me and said, look, you already know that I have this problem. I need to let you know I've been using intravenously for 4 months is when he told me.
And when he gave you that information, how old was he at that time?
He was 20.
He was 20. Backing up a little bit, when you started to see it going south and some of the harder drugs were coming in, were there things that you tried to kind of have some kind of intervention to kind of see if you could either have law enforcement, someone step in and try to help direct him?
So when he was 17, because Sean was he's a December baby, so he graduated when he was 17. And his behavior was getting a little out of control to have 2 other children in the house. He kept bringing drugs and alcohol into the home, which I didn't want. I didn't want my younger 2 children to be exposed. So I did call the police at one point in time when I found weed in his room. Unfortunately, what the police officer told me was they could come out to the house, but unless it was actually on my son, there was nothing that they could prove. And he said, honestly, he said, he's going to say my mom planted it. You're going to say it belongs to my son. It's going to be a he said, she said, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it.
And sometimes that's a situation that still goes on today that I know you and I both, in the work that we do, run into those situations where it's hard to get someone to intervene. It's getting better, but it's hard to get someone to intervene. So one of the things the last thing I want to ask you is just if you could give some advice to a parent that actually is starting to just notice the early stages of addiction. Looking back, briefly, what would you say would be something that you would suggest for them to do? That maybe, not saying that you didn't do, or just something that you might think they should do.
So hindsight's 2020. Really just pay attention to all of those signs. If it doesn't look right, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't. Question it. And always have open and honest communication with your children when it comes to drugs. We tell them all the time, if you are with somebody that's drinking, call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, you won't get in trouble. But I don't know that we extend that when it comes to substances past alcohol, and we really need to. He trusted me to come to me and not overreact and get him the help that he needed. And so that's what you want. You don't want somebody to go elsewhere because of stigma. They might just internalize it.
Yeah. Well, Beth, I really want to thank you for being here. Ultimately, Sean lost his life to a drug overdose, but I can tell you that the work that you do in the community and just all the work that you do, I see it all over the place. And you really are making a difference, and it's really helping a lot of people. You're always available for parents, and we really appreciate you. I know me, just as a community member, appreciate all the things that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for having me and for letting me share Sean's story again.
Yeah. As we just heard, addiction doesn't discriminate. You can do everything right as a parent and still find yourself with a child in crisis.